sort of Saturday anyway, so we could do that next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Academy of Astrology UK. I'm Rod Chang, and today with me is my bestie, Marcus. Sorry,
Hello.
Just a little bit. Today's I'm a little bit like because of working whole day. I'm now just like I want to chill.
Relaxing.
I really couldn't get something too serious today. So and also because when prepare today's this evening's podcast, I've just find some few interesting news, and I don't know which one to go first. But the first, have you feel the kind of a energy? This kind of word come from my mouth is pretty weird because I
no. I know what you mean.
Use the word energy.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think people start to sense about that full moon on the 27-degree Aries Libra, and at the same time, the most important aspect for this full moon chart is the Mars square Pluto. I think this is kind of an intensive energy. What do you think?
I do. I mean, I've noticed it personally, but it hasn't been bad for me at all, which is interesting. I'll get into that side note, side note. But also, I've literally had messages from people this week saying, "What's going on? I can't sleep." Blah, blah, blah. So I'm just like, "Oh, it must be." It's so with any full moon, like the traditional thing, as you know, is like people are supposed to go a bit more crazy. That's the whole lunatic thing. But
okay.
when you've got the full moon plugging into Mars and Pluto at the same time, that's got to be intensified a bit, right? So
yes, indeed.
Yeah. So the personal bit for me was just because I am an Aries sun, as you know, but I have my Venus and Mercury at the degree of that full moon.
I see.
As a conjunction, which I think is why it wasn't quite so bad for me, because you know Venus kind of softens up Mars quite a lot, because Mars is in Libra, Venus is in Aries, mutual reception, they help each other out a bit. But what did happen on a personal note is I have a friend coming to stay with me tonight who we'd spoken during the Mercury retrograde, classic Mercury retrograde confusion. And he had said I had understood it that he was either coming to stay with me tonight or in a week's time, just for one night. What he actually meant was he's coming to stay for the whole week. And I am in the middle of one of the busiest work periods of my life for a while. I found this out on the night of the full moon, and I was just like,
you know what? I can smell something secret there, because I just by coincidence, is that your friend Alejo?
No.
I'm joking because Alejo is also coming to join us in the conference. That's why I said
no. It's I'm not going to say who it is, but it's you know him, but it's a
okay. I don't know. Let's pass this one very quickly because of Mars square Pluto. I don't want to mess up with anyone else. Okay, I'm just joking because I think Alejo was supposed to arrive today. Anyway, if he's our channel's audience, so he would like what are you guys doing? Just gossip about him. No, I'm joking. Anyway, okay, let's go back to focus on the Mars square Pluto. Alejo will really hate me. Forgive me, Alejo. I'm joking. Okay, Mars square this Pluto things. I think same as you. I heard about a lot of people. I think kind of a emergency, or kind of something quite have a very quite intense, and most people, a lot of people feel quite tired. I also feel quite tired. I don't know why, but suddenly this afternoon I feel like and but there's a few things quite interesting. The first drew my attention was a news from, I think it's from Guardian, but it's a retired policeman. There's two policemen in the story, and the one I'd already told you. This one one is more kind of interesting. It's talking about he think is at the time we end up the the drug war, the war to the drug, those for those addicted, for those things. He, in his opinion, I think he think it's about time we rethink our strategy to tackle down the drug, the the abuse of a drug or something. That is very interesting, because this article published today, and I say, well, this is pretty, the Mars Pluto things. I think the whole thing with the drug, with things is kind of, and also I think people are talking about addiction with kind of things.
That's interesting. I mean, what I can see that maybe from the full moon. Moon is sometimes, I mean, we think of Neptune as being seen with drugs, but the moon is often a traditional symbol of drugs, and Mars. But what I think of Mars in Libra is kind of like the social justice side of it, because Libra, social sign, and very much justice, the scales, justice is blind and all that, and Mars is obviously going to war. So what I would have expected, but I mean, I don't read the news, I don't watch the news, I'm basically a hermit. You're the one who's got your finger on the pulse with all this stuff. But, I would have expected something kind of to emerge, either about something like the vaccination program or about social justice, something more explicitly martial that kind of upset the apple cart a bit.
I agree with you, because I think this there's something about vaccination or something about the COVID things is worth to put worth to focus on it, because this Mars is exactly, on the 20, I think Mars is at this moment is 23 degrees, if I remember. Let me double check.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's 23. Yes, 23. Because when the older news of COVID started on the 1st December 2019, Saturn, Pluto were conjunct in 21, 22 degree Capricorn.
Yeah, so that degree is getting triggered.
Yeah, get triggered. And at this moment, I think in UK, I mean, this is quite important. We have like a 50,000 case report this couple days,
of adverse reactions. Well, one thing that I saw, Rod, tonight, which is interesting, is just a YouTuber I follow, lots of people, Dr. John Campbell, who's just a doctor on YouTube. He's got, I don't know, a few million followers now. And he's just a UK GP who very impartially reports on the COVID sort of situation. He's very pro-vaccine. He's a sort of very mainstream GP, but he's very, very impartial. So he doesn't, he just says, this is summing up. So the interview he's just done this evening, I can see being controversial, because it's with an American guy who got myocarditis, heart inflammation, after the vaccine. And he's not saying this as somebody he's not suggesting that people don't take the vaccine. He's very pro-vaccine. He's saying this is a side effect that can happen, but he's really sort of, because he's got such a large following now, it's kind of a risky move to make, and a potentially inflammatory one. And I just think the symbol of that, the heart inflammation, is very Sun-Mars conjunct.
Sun-Mars conjunction,
and square Pluto, the sort of censoring, or because for whatever reasons, fair or foul, the sort of like sidelining of that issue, and that sort of, it's just interesting that was
It is very interesting, symbolic, talking about the Sun conjunct with Mars and the trigger these full moon things. It's kind of very interesting, because I have another news. I just read it 10 minutes before I come in here, and I was like, "This is huge. This is interesting." I don't want to mock anyone, but this is an interesting news. Totally fit this full moon, so I'm going to share with you. So is that I just read? Let me read the news. Let me read the news. Because I don't want to share it online, but I don't want to share the things. Okay, according to the news, I think this news, the earliest news, it come from yesterday, but today a lot of different media reported. The Spanish Secret Service just say they have to inject King Juan Carlos with testosterone blockers to control his rampant sex drive.
which is
Mars, Pluto.
That there are so many levels. It's Mars Pluto square, because Pluto obviously about the the control and like manipulation or subversive control. And Mars Pluto is almost about a violation. It's a very kind of sexual assaulty kind of vibe with it, because it's like violation of something, because Pluto is sort of subterranean impulses that are kind of dark or potentially, and then Mars is always about overcoming stuff. But the really interesting thing about that story, Rod, is that the sun at the moment still in Libra, the sign of its fall traditionally. So the sun is the king. So it's kind of like the fall of the king in a way, or you know what I mean? It's like it's got all those elements of like the king in his fall with Mars in detriment, which is kind of like, okay, your libido's out of control. You're socially crossing the boundaries, which is Libra. Libra's all about proper behavior and etiquette. And what's the right thing to do. So we're gonna like Pluto you right up with, you know, just like, should
we look at his chart? Because I immediately went on Astro.com to find the Juan Carlos first chart.
I'm fascinated by this story, Rod. I think it's brilliant.
Just a second.
Not the event, but
I think it's a symbolically speaking. This news come out now after this full moon, and it's kind of a wow.
I mean, my first impulse was to laugh at it because it sounds comedic, but actually in real life, it's kind of horrific when you think about
and it's secretly injected, you know. They try to control him, and that is very interesting. So we got his chart. I hope this data is correct, because I get it from the Astro.com. And he was born the 5th of January, 1938 in Rome. So this is his chart, and data is AA grade. So I think it's pretty cool, and we can see you know, when Pluto go across that middle heaven.
There's a lot here, isn't there?
A lot. And also he got the interesting. He got the Jupiter in the 3 degree of Aquarius, and Saturn is around there.
No, there's a few things there. There's he's natally Uranus in Taurus.
Yes.
I mean, he's kind of an old guy to have a rampant libido, right?
That was before. This is old king. This is ex-king, not new king.
Oh, okay.
Not Felipe. I think this is the Juan Carlos, the ex-king.
This was the guy who got the injection. This one.
Yes.
Yeah, but he must be. Is he still alive now? I mean,
I think he's still alive. Yes.
Yeah, but when did he get this injection to suppress
I have no idea. Probably a long time ago.
This was the news that came out just now.
News just came out.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Got it. All right, so it's not literally just happened. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because the Uranus return has just happened on his ascendant, and then that, as you say, the Pluto going over his midheaven.
Yes.
By transit is kind of, and then that obviously the Mars and Sun are squaring his midheaven. The midheaven obviously being about one's public image, you know. So and the full moon bringing that to light with the full exposure that Pluto causes. One of the key words for Pluto I always think is exposure.
Yes. And I think soon he will got his oh my god. Yeah. Pluto, opposite Pluto. How many people going to have a long life like that to have your Pluto opposition?
Well, it's not quite, but another couple of years. But
it's
nearly
another couple of years. Wow. You're going to expecting something bigger comes out.
And there's also just a minor, the nodes are opposite their birth positions. So so there'll be an interesting eclipse for him in just under a couple of months' time.
Yes, and soon the next solar eclipse will be around there. Yes, it's quite interesting. I think this is the news. We say symbolic speaking, Mars conjunct the Sun and the square Pluto and triggered by full moon. And this is kind of I say, wow, this is pretty, interesting. Fit into the not only Mars square Pluto is kind of intensive life or death situation. It could be something secret. It could be something, interesting, controlling or something, because they say his libido is threatening the state's security.
Yes, I mean, there's one other minor point, not quite as meaty as your sort of Mars Pluto hammering away at his midheaven there, but we've also got his Venus in Capricorn, Mercury recently stationed direct in square to his Venus and opposing Chiron. So that's making a T-square with his Venus, which of course is all about your, love life and sex drive and all of that kind of stuff as well. So, and Venus, note that as with, all, I always say that sort of half jokingly that all Taurus and Scorpio risings create their own problems and make their own illnesses, because you've got like the Taurus rising always has Libra on the cusp of the 6th, so it's the same planet, same as with Scorpio rising has Aries on the 6th, so that it's like Scorpio and Taurus risings create their own problems and make their own illnesses. But like I think with this one, like Venus rules as well as his ascendant, it rules his 6th, and Capricorn was one of the libidinous signs, like all of the sort of hoofed animal signs traditionally were supposed to be high libido.
My god.
It's just interesting.
How many Capricorn planet in Capricorn for him? 3.
Well,
1, 2, 3, and Mercury retrograde.
But his chart ruler as that Venus in Capricorn, right? Oriental Venus, so she's before the sun. It's in a daytime chart, so she's definitely kind of heated up a bit there.
Look, I just noticed one thing. His Venus is trying the Uranus also at this moment. Have you noticed that? That kind of uncontrolled. You couldn't control that sexual drive. That Uranus so excited, so kind of a pretty. I mean,
that's in his natal chart, right?
Yes.
So that Venus Uranus definitely. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting thing, and he does have that Venus Mars sextile with a really rather lovely mutual reception, with Mars in Pisces and Venus in Capricorn. They're in each other's exaltations, but it's interesting. I think if you read the old Roman astrologer Firmicus, he says something about Venus in aspect to Mars. It works very differently in night charts than it does in day charts. Like in the charts of people born during the day, because they're both nocturnal planets, he does say specifically it tends to sort of make the person it increases their libido too much. I mean, he puts it in much more damning terms because he's like old, like early Christian astrologer, but still it's interesting that
So it's very interesting. You mentioned one point in that time, more Hellenistic view is like a daytime chart. You treat daytime chart and the nighttime chart, nocturnal chart, very different way. So suppose this chart is in a nocturnal chart. It was born in the evening, so maybe we'll tame this.
It would cool it down. It would cool it down. So literally, so one of the simplest ways to think about that is day charts are hotter and night charts are colder.
I see.
So certain planets do better in day charts. Those would be the Sun and Jupiter because they're given power, and Saturn because you want to warm him up a bit because he's too frosty. And in night charts, the Moon and Venus do better because they enjoy the night. They're sort of cool and they like the dark and moisture of the night. Activities of Venus are generally performed at nighttime. But then Mars also works better in night charts because he's too hot and too aggressive, so he gets cooled down. So anyway, the point in Firmicus is he like it's certain planets, certain things aren't massively adjusted by the night change, but other things are quite significantly impacted. And I've noticed that when he talks about Venus and Mars in aspect to each other, he does explicitly say that in nighttime charts, this sort of combination can work a bit more favorably, and in daytime charts, it often does create a bit sometimes too strong a desire nature. Putting it mildly.
Okay, that's a I think it's quite interesting talking about that chart, and I think we also learn a little bit about astrology, natal chart astrology, and different view about the nighttime chart, nocturnal chart, and the diurnal chart. And it's very interesting. But let's come back to this full moon. Suppose someone, I mean, for us, it's like not everyone going to have like a strong impact on this full moon. But suppose I think it's more interesting is suppose someone who has the planet or angles on the late degree of the cardinal sign What's your suggestion for them at this moment about these Sun, Moon, Mars, and Pluto?
Well, I mean, it's probably happened already because it was sort of yesterday, so it's maybe a bit late. But
I still have a couple of days to,
yeah,
cool
shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted, perhaps. But yeah, maybe a couple of days to take these. I guess the first thing to note, as with any full moon, is that emotions are often stirred up and you're more easily triggered. And that's a real Mars-Pluto term, actually, triggered.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I have that Mars-Pluto transit for me is two-way. So as I say, I think it is only because this moon falls exactly on my natal Venus that this was quite fine for me. I was slightly mildly triggered by a relatively minor social event,
Okay.
But so in terms of advice for people, I just say be aware that you're going to be more emotionally triggered. Therefore, do nothing impulsively. Just kind of, if you notice that you are triggered, you are feeling incredibly frustrated, angry, just emotionally like head explodey, then just move away from the email, move away from the phone, take some time out to process, and just basically it's that wait thing, because Mars and Libra, both of them are cardinal signs. I mean, Aries and Libra, sorry, they both, neither of them like to wait anyway.
I agree.
You've got Mars involved in the configuration. It's that tendency to impulsive action, and usually with Mars and the Sun in Libra, it's usually it's a communicative sign, so it will say something or write something, and the thing that's said or written may not be that helpful. So
I agree. Yeah, I think this kind of a cardinal size, cardinal T-square reaction is like sometimes it's like when you aware you are doing something, sometimes it's already too late because you are on it. Because I have similar pattern, and it's a Moon, Mars, Pluto, and the part of it is a cardinal sign. So I know sometimes how impulsive I could be. And but learning by the by you experience, sometimes it's like before I say something or before I post something, I have to think about it again.
If I remember correctly, we both have a Moon Pluto square, don't we?
Oh yes, we both have that.
So we're both aware of that particular level of craziness. So it's just it's I think in being emotionally triggered is something that Moon Pluto brings. It's just particular feelings can drag you into a sort of resonance pit of previous like it's like it's emotional. I think Moon Pluto is often a sort of emotional trauma thing. So with a particular circumstance, you get immediately sucked back into that feeling, and that's when you do something stupid, and that's when
especially I think I want to add one thing is especially when the Sun and the Mars, they are both in the detriment side, involved with this aspect, involved with this T-square. I think it's very important. It's like I'm not going to do something stupid to prove I'm brave, or I'm capable, or I'm to prove yourself. You have to think about it again, because this is about the Sun Mars is kind of a self-expression, and I want to show it. But think about it again. I think this Mars Sun,
I think that's. I was just thinking as well. One of the big tropes of Libra, it seems to me, is fairness, and one of the cries that could go up with this full moon is "It's not fair." It's not fair. Do you know what I mean? And that's it's not fair either because of yourself or because of someone else, or something triggers you, and it's not fair, and there's all the rage, and that may be justifiable, but just be aware that particularly with Pluto involved, you may be being driven by ghosts. So it's just good to kind of like step back a little bit and just ride it out, and then do something maybe in 2 days time, if you still feel the need to,
just
after you've had time to
I think this aspect, but I think from another view of financial astrology, we think this next between this full moon until next full moon will be something quite interesting. the bumpy,
Okay,
you will see.
okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, but you don't know, because there's something behind. There is also quite important eclipse, lunar eclipse, and the solar eclipse behind. So you don't know which one are going to trigger that. Yeah, because there's one thing at this moment, Mars square Pluto, and the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse behind it. It could be, play a bit. Talk about this, because soon we will enter into Sun in Scorpio. We're not going to talk about it today, but I just read something very interesting. I think I want to use this one to share this news for today's ending. Because I just read it and I feel quite interesting. This is I think I read first. I first read this post from my friend, Australian financial astrologer, Olga Manano, and she's posted this pretty interesting, because she's a Scorpio, and she shows this. It's from the Twitter. It's from Twitter. Should I show it? I think.
Yeah. If you've got the graphic, I mean, as long as the copyright's okay and everything, it's been shared on Twitter, so I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, yes, this one. So this is from the Salt Lake County Health Department. Okay,
and these are sun signs, right, Rod?
These sun signs.
Okay.
So they published the figure about the fully vaccinated by sun sign. It is very interesting. It's hilarious, because you see, the first one is Leo. They are totally fully vaccinated.
Well,
but see who is the last two.
Interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, I guessed it would be Scorpio just because it's the most, in my view, ornery sign. But because I've got Scorpio rising, so like, of course it is. But it's interesting. Virgo. It's so low, right?
I know, and I think maybe I can read Scorpio in one way, is they are more kind of a, suspicion. They are more aware.
Scorpio. I have no, because I think that makes sense from an let's say a stereotypical way side of things, because I agree they're often looking under things to see what's under them, what's wrong with it. That's the not the first thought of a Scorpio isn't somebody gives them a free meal. It isn't like, oh, how tasty, how kind. It's like, well, maybe that's kind, but what could be wrong with it? Why are you giving me it? You know what I mean? So what are your motivations for giving me this free thing? Thank you very much, though. That's kind of the Scorpio vibe. So the Virgo thing, that's interesting, because obviously Virgo stereotypically super into health and their bodies and whatever. So 50% uptake, maybe that's just purely the divide between people, like 50% of the Virgos are like, this is the right thing for my health and I definitely want to do it, and 50% of the Virgos are like, we don't have enough data, we can't possibly take it. Just like,
and the third one is Capricorn. Are they also suspicious too?
Yes. Capricorn and Scorpio, I think both are very pretty high on the suspicion index.
It's quite interesting, isn't it?
It is really interesting. It's really interesting that the sort of Leos are so high on the uptake. I mean, it's Leo and Aquarius are the two, sort of the sign of the royalty and the sign of the people, right? So it's kind of, in a sense, that makes sense from the official line kind of thing, like the king and the bureaucrats, or the king and the parliament, even though they might be opposed, or royalty and parliament, they're still very much official line type people.
I think so. Yes, I think so. I think maybe from an Aquarius view, I think they probably, because I'm Aquarius, so I would say, because we are seeing the big picture. For future's good, for everyone's good, for fully vaccinated is for my own good and for your own good. So I will do it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and Leo would just be like, well, this is what the authorities, not so much what the authorities are telling us to, but this seems to be the
heroic?
I don't know. Is
Heroic?
The done thing, or is it because it's like, it's my responsibility to take the lead and show other people, lead by example, and this is the right thing to do, something along those lines.
It's very interesting, because another side I can think about why Aquarius is a kind of a number two. I'm kind of like quite interesting about why Aquarius. One thing, because I remember a friend tell me, say, come on, believe in science. But this is very interesting because so for some people suspected about all these things, I also say, you don't have those figure, but another side say, well, yes, we got a figure. You know,
well,
there is things there.
Yes, I agree. But I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think the weight of evidence to date is in favor of vaccination statistics. But I completely agree. There isn't. It's by no means completely cut and dried, I would say. But I mean, it's. And this, I speak as somebody, I'm one of the very few people among all the people I know who hasn't had the vaccination. So just to make it clear, I'm not like, I'm just saying that seems to be the consensus scientifically. So I think it would be fair to say that if Aquarius were thinking in terms of scientific consensus, that might be a fair motivation. But I think you're right in terms of it's the social side of it. I think probably so, that would sway an Aquarius sun. It's like, so if you think about the sun is like one sense of individuality and like one sense of how can I best represent myself in the world sort of thing.
Yes. So, I think from this view, from what you just say, I think you can describe both why Leo and Aquarius are the number one and number two. You know, because there is the kind of a sense of a responsibility or sense of like, I want to be the first to show the example. I'm the good citizen or whatever. I don't know. It could be, you know.
I would be very intrigued to see, because yes, based on data, but I would be very intrigued to see how was this data gathered and how many people. This is my Virgo midheaven, of course. I'm wanting to know what the sample size was. And was it you know, because if you're thinking statistically, you don't want a self-selected sample. You don't want people who submit only their own data. You want to gather it from census records or something.
I just put it down. Now let Mercury is not retrograde. We're just going to leave this here. It's pretty interesting. It's a health department. It's not an astrology publication.
It's great.
It's so like health department publication.
As astrologers, we've got to appreciate, right?
The day they publish this, yes, Mercury was just turned direction, and it's quite funny they publish this. I mean, this is kind of a very interesting topic today.
It's a very interesting piece of data. I mean, if it could be shown that if it's a large sample size, like a very large group, and it's not self-selected, do you know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
From public health records, then what's fascinating about it is that, because I mean, if it's self-selected, then I could be very facetious and say, of course, Leos are the highest represented.
I see.
They'll be the first ones, but no, I'm just joking.
No, probably not.
But I do think it's such an interesting sample. If this is in some way verifiable, because the gap between the Leo and Aquarius and everyone else, that's a sort of nearly a 10% gap.
Oh yes, it's quite huge, isn't it? Yes, you're right. Yes,
like all the others are much closer together.
Yeah, they're 50-50, right? But the Leo is like 70%.
It's a narrower band, and then you've got those two, just like a few, you know. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why, but I just think it is a very interesting news to share today.
Yes.
And we are going to move into the Sun in Scorpion season soon. So I think maybe our next episode are going to talk about a little bit about Scorpion. Yeah. And you know, the story behind and people in Scorpion.
And just in terms of the topical sort of what's going on, obviously I think the end of October and the beginning of November looks potentially a bit gnarly, because we've got that lots of stuff happening with Mars and Uranus and Saturn around that period. So we'll probably mention that just for the topical side.
I think next week we're probably not going to do a live stream because we got a conference, so I'll be at the conference.
All right, so maybe the weekend, but it'll still be going on. So
yeah, we're still going on, but you know, we will see. Maybe do something, or maybe I will podcast directly from the conference.
Ooh, That'd be good. Possibly slightly chaotic. We'll see.
If you be there, I will do that then.
I'm not there this year, Rod. So,
okay. I mean, okay. Anyway, we will do it. We will talk about it then.
All right.
Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you for watching our live stream podcast. Today we talk about quite interesting full moon in Aries and Libra, and a little bit about interesting the Mars square Pluto. Also, there's some news fit into this symbolically speaking, and also that very interesting news about which sun sign has most people get fully vaccinated, and it's interesting topic. Okay. Also, I mentioned next week we may not go live because I will be the conference, so I will probably see you in 2 weeks time then.
Okay.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Have a good evening. Bye.